Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box Podcast. My name is Gary.
I'm Jordan.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Maria.
And welcome to the July Roundtable.
Woohoo!
Welcome everybody, hope you've had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. You all jumped in pretty quick there. You're gonna have to be quicker than that though. Adam doesn't learn his lesson either. Every week, just waits and waits. But welcome to the July Roundtable. Big Blue Box listener, we hope you had a good one, and we are going to give you our thoughts on kind of a wrap-up show on the on season 1. Now that that's done and finished and the dust has settled a little bit, and these guys have watched all the eps probably a couple of times, a few of them I'm guessing, and it's always very interesting, enlightening and entertaining hearing these guys' thoughts on all things Doctor Who. And so this is going to be July 1. For August, we'll let you know what we're going to do for August. We're not sure yet. That'll be an interesting one. Everyone's got that kind of pensive, like, August Roundtable. What should we do for that one? So we'll let you know at the end of either, if I think of it during this recording, we'll do that. Otherwise, I will chat to these guys over the next few weeks and let you know. But we are here for Season 1's wrap-up. But before we get to all that stuff, and before we get to these guys, just a friendly little prod, just to make sure that you are following or subscribing to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, so you won't miss any of the monthly roundtable episodes or the weekly shenanigans that myself and Adam get up to on the weekly show. And you can do that via just doing a search for us in whatever app you use, or head over to bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. There are links off to all the things there, and you can also listen on the website as well for free. You can link off to the socials as well. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, and we have a very cool free Discord server. There's a link on the website. Hop in there and chat lots of cool Doctor Who with some great people there. So go and do that. Right, to the team. Jordan, how have you been since we last spoke?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Been keeping myself busy doing Doctor Who things. So Maria and I, we've done the Gunnersbury Park Set to Stun exhibition.
Oh yeah,
which was a lot of fun. And then we both did the recent season 17 event at Riverside with the Dwath.
Nice. That looks
Focus
good.
over at Dwath, so that was a lot of fun. So I've been keeping myself busy.
So you've been out and about doing some Who stuff. That's very cool.
Yeah, and just recovering. We had my friend Stag do in London over the weekend, so I'm still, it's Wednesday, I'm still sort of recovering from that.
Wow.
A little bit. I had one too many martinis, I think, but it's fine.
That's fine. Okay, that's okay. If you don't have a 3-day hangover after a stag do, it wasn't a good stag do.
You haven't done it properly.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, nice one, dude. I'd love to be able to get out and do some more Doctor Who stuff, but you lot just keep booking the bloody tickets too quick. Wanted to get to the BFI for the upcoming McCoy stuff.
They sold out really quickly, didn't they?
Yeah, that was a quick one.
Yeah.
That was a real quick one. So, yeah, it's good that you got out there, done some Who stuff, and you'll stag do. Nice. Back on the monthly roundtable, it's Matt Steele. How are you doing, buddy?
Hello. I am doing very well, thank you, Gary. I was racking my brains for a minute there, because I was thinking, I'm almost ashamed of myself. I've not done hardly any Doctor Who related things. Normally I've got loads to say, but I suppose the only thing that I've done was I did go to the midnight release cinema screening for the Empire of Death and the recap of the Legend of Ruby Sunday, which
nice.
feelings of episodes aside, which we'll get onto later, it was just so fun to go to the cinema with, and the amount of people that cosplayed, and it just made the whole thing like 10 times better. I saw, Seventh Doctor and Ace. Somebody dressed up as K9. Didn't work, but I really appreciate how they tried it. So many cosplays. A fantastic 10th Doctor. All of these sorts of things. And the whole audience just vibe of being in the cinema watching Doctor Who. It's just magical. It's one of those times where it doesn't happen very often, and everybody feels that same excitement as you do. So even if, feelings aside of the episodes, whether it was good, whether it was bad, the whole experience just absolutely was perfect.
Oh man, that sounds cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. And did you find did you find that your opinion of the episodes were slightly different because you were in the cinema and are surrounded by all the Who fans and just being in the moment like that, versus if you'd have watched it at home? Did it alter your enjoyment or not enjoyment of it?
I think so, yeah, because I assume it's much the same as the BFI screenings, where you're sat at home and you're watching Doctor Who and you think it's funny, but you're by yourself. You tend to laugh in your head. But then when everybody else is also a Doctor Who fan and they find something funny, and then everybody is suddenly chuckling, or a tiny little chuckle, and you hear it, and then it all just kind of explodes with this silent little chuckle, and you think, yeah, this is really cool. So yeah, it did heighten the experience of the episode for being in the cinema. It did its job right. Good.
That sounds awesome, dude. I knew that one of us would get out to the cinema to see it, so that's good. Yeah.
I was shattered, but it was worth it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. And we also have our monthly... I don't think Maria's missed a roundtable. I could be wrong, but I don't think Maria's missed one. It's Maria. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, Gary. I've had COVID recently, so I'm still recovering a bit, to be honest. And I know Matt had it as well. So I had 4 days tucked up under a duvet in order to try and feel better. So I'm still slightly breathless, but I'm good. I'm better than I was. Thank you.
Oh, that's good. It's always, yeah. It feels like a distant memory now, but I remember having COVID a couple of years ago. After the initial big wave of it all, I dodged it for quite a while, it feels like. And then I managed to get it, and I remember it being dreadful for about a week, just awful. So, I don't know how you feel. So good that you're on the up, though. Do you feel like you're almost there?
Yeah, I went back to work today, so I'm just easing myself gently back into the old routine. But I'm good. As Jordan was saying, we went to the Gunnersbury Museum, which was really good, actually, much better than I kind of expected. There was some original props there. Really good ones as well. There was the original Cyberman, original Dalek. There was the Dalek the Davros mask. There was some. There was, I think, robots of death, head mask, and the body. It was actually a really well organised exhibition. Luckily, we caught it just before it closed, because I think it closed a couple of days later. But that was definitely worth going to, and it was free to get in, which was fantastic.
Oh, nice.
And then recently, we went to Riverside Studios and for season 17. So for anyone that hasn't been to these events, they are put on by the DWAS, so the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, and there's normally guests from Classic Who. So I kind of fulfilled I wouldn't say, well, it probably is a lifetime ambition, actually, because I met Matt Irving, who did a lot of the props for classic Doctor Who, in the 70s and 80s. And he was featured so much in Doctor Who magazine. He'd always be there with the special effects, with the props, and kind of explaining how it was all done. And I think it really brought Doctor Who to life for me at the time, because don't forget we weren't able to see a lot of classic Who, unless you were buying the VHS releases. So I met him, had a photograph with him. So I was a really happy girl when we went, and Louise Jamieson was there. Louise is always so good at coming for DOAS events. She's a regular, and there was lots of people from behind the scenes. And part of the event as well is you watch some classic Who. So there was 4 different. There was one episode with 4 different stories. I think it was. I think it was season 15 of Classic Who. I can't remember for sure. I'm sure Jordan knows. But there was an episode of Image of the Fendal. There was an episode of The Sunmakers, an episode of The Invasion of Time, and an episode of Underworld. So you just get to see one episode, but there's people that are involved in those episodes. So it was a really nice event, and the prices to go to these kind of events are very reasonable as well. So it's well worth going if they put on an event like that. And I think Riverside seems to be their new kind of London home for kind of putting on these one-day events. So it was a really good event, really good.
Oh, it does sound awesome. Wow, what a cool day. And that was both you and Jordan were at that one.
Yes. Yeah, we both went along. I mean, Riverside Studios is in a fantastic location. It's kind of out of the way, but it's on the river, and it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful location, and there's some brilliant food down there as well. I have to be fair. I mean, the restaurant, do put on really nice food, so I can't complain at all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. Well, I'm glad that you lot have had an okay couple of weeks or a few weeks since we last saw, apart from your COVID, Maria and Matt, and your illnesses and all that stuff. Apart from that, I'm glad you're all keeping well.
Thanks.
Right, let's dive into your thoughts on season 1. First up, for a question for Jordan then. So, what was your, two-part question. What was your fave episode? Or episodes? And why? And what was your, if you have one, you might like the entire thing, but what was your least favourite episode or episodes? And again, why you thought that?
Oh, favourite episode. I liked Boom. I thought that was a very good one. And I really liked The Legend of Ruby Sunday. It's just a shame that Empire of Death was not so great. And then, Boom felt like good old Stephen Moffat. Just, a really simple idea. He steps on a landmine and then he just makes a whole episode out of it. And The Legend of Ruby Sunday I just thought it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of, I think it was the whole build-up as well. And I thought, obviously it wasn't going to be Susan or anything like that, but we'll get into that, I'm sure, later on. But it was the whole is it her? Is it not her? Is it? And then the minute sort of you heard Gabriel Wolf's voice, I think I guessed it when the unit soldier dies and then he's talking to them in the hologram thing.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I know exactly. I don't think that was Gabriel Wolf, but I was listening to it, I was thinking, I know exactly who that is now. I was like, that's going to be Sutek, isn't it? And then at the very end, when he turns up, 1:00 in the morning, and I'm sat there on my phone watching it, late at night, and I was like, oh my God, it's Sutek. And then realised, hang on, Jordan, you're at home and it's 1:00 in the morning and shouting really loudly about it. But yes, I think they were probably my two favourite stories. And my least favourite one was probably something like Space Babies. I wasn't overly taken with that one. I think as a story to kick a series off, it was not the right choice. I think if I'd have, because that and Devil's Cord was a double bill, I think I would have put them the other way round. I have my issues with the Devil's Cord, but I would have put them the other way round. But yeah, that was probably my least favourite of the series. I think the rest of them all had bits and pieces in them that I quite enjoyed. And there were bits and pieces in Space Babies that I quite enjoyed, but I think that was the weakest one out of the whole. Even taking into account Empire of Death, I think that was still the weakest story out of the whole lot.
Right. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fairly expected, I think. Okay, Matt, stop looking at Doctor Who merch just for a second. Need your thoughts on this stuff. Eyes up. Fave ep, least favourite ep, and why? Shoot.
Hang on, I'll just put all of my merch down a minute. I've got hardly any more room here for it, but I'll try. I'm sure I'll find space. I'm rivaling Adam for his merch collection. But, right, fave episode. I was going to say I was torn between Boom and The Legend of Ruby Sunday. But as we've had those, I'd say probably my next favourite was Rogue. I didn't go into that for reasons. I'll just say now, my least favourite episode was well and truly Dot and Bubble. Every single episode of this season I've watched about 3 times now.
Oh wow!
Bar, Dot and Bubble.
Oh,
I watched that once, and I can't sit through it again. I see what Russell was trying to do and how ironic it was supposed to be. Bar the last 5 minutes, because I thought Ncuti's acting there was off the scale, and it is so powerful and brilliant. But the 45 minutes previous it just didn't sit right with me. I just didn't enjoy it one bit. And probably I don't want to ever say it about Doctor Who, because I've gone back to even things like Sleep No More and Nightmare in Silver and tried to give it another go to see if my opinions have changed, but I don't think I'll ever go back to Dot and Bubble. Not currently. However,
oh dear.
That leads me on to the fact that I had no expectations or anything like that going into Rogue. So I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed that episode. I wasn't sure about the whole, because I'm not really a fan of Downton Abbey or Bridgerton or anything like that, so I wasn't sure how I was going to find the episode, but it worked really well. The sets looked gorgeous. The costumes. I didn't know how the character, what was he called? The Captain Jack-esque character, Rogue. He was called Rogue. I didn't know if he was going to turn out to be Captain Jack, and then that was going to be a thing that nobody wanted to happen, but it didn't. His sort of connection with Ncuti's Doctor was. It might have run a little too fast, but you've got to work with what time on the screen you have. So I can sort of let them off for that. But it was charming, and you could especially from behind the scenes, it seems that they're infatuated with each other as actors as well as on screen. And you can tell that through the episode, and I think it works really well. Yeah, so. Besides Boom, which I thought was absolutely amazing, so tense and just edge of your seat, and Legend of Ruby Sunday that had me just David Tennanting at the end, what? But But that was fantastic. Obviously, Empire of Death has its own whole podcast to talk about, probably. But as a standalone, those two and Rogue, probably joint favourites. But yeah, Dot and Bubble, it didn't work for me whatsoever.
Not doing it for you. I read you.
No.
I read you. That seems to be a common theme as well. That's running through the season with a lot of fandom. It's sort of the lesser enjoyable ones seem to be anyway. I don't know, Dot and Bubble was a bit of a Marmite one. I've seen a lot of people say it was amazing and a lot of people say it was awful. So, okay, cool. And Maria, what was your fave and least fave episodes?
Oh, Gary, I knew you were going to ask me about my favourite, and I really am kind of troubled, really, to kind of give a favourite.
You're troubled.
I am. I mean, I've kind of thinking about the season as a whole. I'm kind of thinking there's different things in different episodes that I like. So if I was to say for tension, I would say I loved Boom. I thought Moffat wrote Ncuti well during that episode. He had a bit of authority and I really liked that. And he seemed to be like the Doctor that I would like to know. But then we had Rogue, and The Devil's Cord, who, as episodes, they look fantastic. I mean, if I'm just looking at the visuals, they both look amazing. They are both directed by Ben Cheshire. And, big shout out to him because I think he did a fantastic job on both of those episodes. They just look fantastic, despite the faults in the episodes. It's interesting what Matt says about Dot and Bubble, because if I was to look at the one that I've probably watched the most, it is actually Dot and Bubble. And I know visually it's probably not the strongest, but some of the ideas that Russell has in the story have made me want to go back and watch it, and I've probably watched it about 3 times. It might not be the strongest episode in some ways, but it's the one that's got, I think, the most interesting ideas in it. He uses a lot of metaphors, Russell, and maybe
I think Maria's the casualty,
the literal realization of what how it comes across on screen isn't always achieved. But I actually like the ideas in it. So I'd probably say Dot and Bubble, because that was the one that kind of I couldn't wait to see again when I watched it the first time. And I wanted to see it again. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I can criticise in it. But I think in terms of ideas, I like it actually better than 73 Yards, which I think is a bit of an odd story. So I'd say Dot and Bubble if I had to pick one. And the reason I'm not picking the finale is because there's lots of faults in the finale. And I might have picked The Legend of Ruby Sunday originally for that guttural reaction I had when I first watched it. I think we were all up at midnight watching it, except for Matt, who was obviously in the cinema, and Harry. But I think we all had that same reaction when we saw that episode first of all. But kind of looking at it now, I can't rate it that highly now.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. So okay, interesting. So Dot and Bubble would be the one that you would gravitate to as your sort of favoured.
If I had to pick a favourite, I would say that one.
Interesting. Okie dokie. Right, so a few expected ones there, and a couple. Well, I kind of knew Maria was going to be like, if you have to ask me this, I'm going to be beeped off about this because, in short, I didn't really like any of them. But if I had to pick one, it would be that. I read you. Okay. And Right, so that's the episodes then. So I just wanted to open it up now a little bit more and just get your thoughts on how you think Ncuti has been as the Doctor now that... So we all spoke about this a little bit when we spoke about the Christmas specials. The Christmas special after we had the whole Tennant return thing and then the bi-generation into Ncuti and stuff. And I think we all agreed quite unanimously that Ncuti was amazing in that Christmas special, just like a firecracker of energy and, you know, just full of life and very sort of stole a few scenes actually and all that stuff. So, but obviously he was coupled with being on screen with David Tennant and just the whole vibe of being in a special episode and, you know, the toy maker being back and all these things. So now that we have Ncuti's been through his own series and he hasn't had to rely on any other Doctors. The only thing that's sort of been a bit fan servicey is some returning things like obviously Melanie Bush coming back, a returning villain at the end with Sutek and that kind of thing. But for the most part, they've all been sort of independent stories. And also, it's felt like a very unique series in that we've not seen any Daleks, we've not seen any Cybermen, Centaurans, anything like that. So it has been very, very standalone, if you like, for Ncuti and his Doctor. So what are your main thoughts on Ncuti and how you feel he's kind of stacked up as the Doctor now, and then just a little bit about how you feel Millie Gibson has done as Ruby. Maria, what did you think to Ncuti then as the new Doctor? Your thoughts on him?
If I'm completely honest, I like parts of what he's done, but I still think there's, you know, it's his first series. I think there's still a way for him to go to be the Doctor, because it kind of struck me the other day when I was thinking about it. I thought, how old is he? He's like early 30s. And I think he plays the Doctor like a man that's in his early 30s. Whereas I suppose we've been used to a Doctor that is kind of a lot older, you know, has that thousands of years of experience. And it feels odd to say that, but yeah, I think I kind of thought to myself, I thought he's playing it quite immature sometimes. You know, I don't know if it's just the way that the series has been written, but you know, you've got when he was in Rogue and he was kind of, you know, he was lusting after another character. He was, you know, he was kind of, I don't know whether they've made him to kind of be more relevant, obviously, to younger people. So he's got that kind of younger vibe about him. But yeah, I like his characterization, but I'm not loving it yet. I'd like to see more from him as an actor. I think he's got it within him, but I think the way that he's been written this series, it's been very up and down, very uneven. You know, I mean, he was bouncing around in Space Babies, you know, and he hasn't kind of lost that usefulness that I think. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, if you compare him with Matt Smith, you know, they're completely different characters. It feels like a completely different character. It doesn't feel like he's the Doctor yet. And I think it hasn't helped that, you know, that we haven't seen him in the TARDIS that much, you know. So, yeah, I'd like to see more from him as the Doctor. Right. I'd like to see a more stronger, more solid character.
I see. Okay, interesting. And then just quickly, did you warm to Millie Gibson's Ruby?
Yeah, I think Millie, to be fair to her, she's been a really good actress during this series. I mean, she's obviously had you know, she's had different aspects of Ruby to portray, and she's actually been really good. I mean, I loved her actually in Rogue. because it felt like she was just behaving like a young girl. You know, there was a little bit of teenage silliness in her, and I quite liked that. It made her quite sweet. And what else? I mean, 73 Yards was obviously her, you know, her episode, because she had to portray so much. So, you know, she's actually been really good. I think she's worked really well with what she's been given. But in terms of her character, I've got a lot to say about her character, but I think as an actress, she's been fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And Matt, same question to you, dude.
Yeah, I'm kind of polar opposite with Ncuti, to be fair. I think he was enigmatic from the start. He was just brilliant. I agree, he's a absolutely, totally different Doctor than we've ever seen before. I think a lot of that has to do with all the healing that 14 has done, so that all of these emotions that Ncuti's Doctor openly displays, maybe a little too much, but I put that down to the writing more than his performance, because he's just doing what it says on the script. But what he does with the lines, I found amazing. I thought, even in Space Babies, there was I can't remember exactly when it was, but there was a scene, I think he was talking to, is it Captain Poppy, about being different, and the way he portrayed the answer to reassure her that, you know, being different is a superpower. I just thought, that is the Doctor right there. And yeah, he has, for me, been phenomenal throughout the whole series. Yeah, emotion, he's a very emotional Doctor, and I like it when they show the emotion or a range of, you know, how he can be super ecstatic to tearing his heart out, but I think they overdid it with the amount of crying. At one stage I'm thinking, is he going to go an episode without tearing up? But like I said, that's the writing, not his performance. I thought absolutely amazing performance from Ncuti, and it kind of serves him in the future in my books as like, this is my CV, because he's had a chance to do every range in this season that he can, and he's done them all brilliantly. Ironically enough, the one that stands out to me, and there's so many, but the one that stands out to me right now, probably because I just was slating it, Dot and Bubble, the end of the episode where obviously he can't save them because, you know, they're a bunch of horrible people. The acting chops on him, and that was his first ever scene, and you just think, and it gives you shivers when you're watching it, and that was the only thing from that would save it from a 0, but that would have put, if that the whole episode was like that, it would have been a 10, because that he was phenomenal in that 5 minutes.
Agreed. Yes. That's crazy to think that was his first scene as well. Crazy, but okay. So you're a fan of Ncuti and his performance, and what about Millie Gibson?
Very much the same, I think. Yeah. It did take probably. I wasn't sure in the Christmas special. I liked her, but I was thinking, what is Millie Sunday going to be? Is she going to be, you know, a Rose type character where she just is pining after the Doctor and unfortunately Martha, or, you know, I didn't know enough about her, and it took, I think Space Babies was really served as a new audience, new companion, new everything, so you don't really find out a lot about who they are and who they're going to be, because it is exposition, but you've got to have it. So that's fine with me. So it wasn't until Devil's Cord, really, where you start to see what Millie can actually do, and who she's going to be as Ruby Sunday. And yeah, I thought she was brilliant, especially 73 yards. I mean, my lord, like I've heard, I'm not sure if it was completely true, but when she first started filming 73 yards, she was 17. Because she wasn't quite 18 yet, and I think that's the acting level at 17 years old. That she just carried that episode. There was no need for any other bigger leads or anything. It was, yeah, she was hands down flawless in that episode. I think they gel so well together as well as a duo.
Matt, do you think that Millie is actually stronger than Ncuti? Because I kind of got that impression sometimes during the series that she can actually kind of hold her own.
That's such an interesting question.
Whereas I didn't kind of feel that so much with Ncuti. Sometimes he seemed a bit misdirected.
She can be I think she was written that way quite a lot of the time, where, like I say, the Doctor was so emotional, where with and not always in the best way, where he almost runs away, like he runs away in Space Babies and then instantly runs away in Devil's Cord. It didn't paint him off in the best light to begin with, and then Ruby is the one that grounds him and pulls him back in. And I get that's what a companion's supposed to do, but I think Russell maybe relied on that too much a little bit. So yeah, at times Millie was definitely the stronger, or Ruby was definitely the stronger of the two.
Agreed. Okay, so safe to say that you liked Ncuti and Millie Gibson, which is good.
Great TARDIS team.
Cool. And same question to you, Jordan. Your thoughts on Ncuti and Millie?
I am going to agree with Matt. I really, really liked Ncuti as the Doctor. There were a few things like him crying all the time, but that's more down to the script than it is him. He's just doing what's on the page in front of him. And it is a shame that, and I think it's what has affected this series, is that he wasn't so stupid, because yes, he was in it, but there were quite a few stories where he wasn't in a lot of it. Obviously, because he was off doing Sex Education and the Barbie movie and off filming all this, that and the other. And, you know, and Millie Gibson was fantastic in 73 Yards. But then sort of Dot and Bubble, and I'm just like, I don't know, could you not have just waited until he was around to do a bit more? And then he's kind of in the series a bit more, because you only got 8 episodes and you're 2 episodes down without Ncuti Gatwa in it anyway. Mm-hmm. But what he was in, I thoroughly enjoyed his performance. And I agree with Matt, actually, that scene in Space Babies where he's talking to Captain Poppy, I thought the way he delivered that was fantastic. The end scene for Dot and Bubble I thought was amazing. And we can say what we like about the Empire of Death. I really liked the bit where he's talking to Sutek and he's like, well, if you're the god of death and you've made me the god of death now because I have to kill you. I really liked that whole sequence. I think there were a few, I kept thinking there's a few moments, a few quotes here and there where on the Doctor Who calendar, you know, I kind of, you know, next year there are quite a few quotes where I'm like, yeah, you've got quite a few years now where you can put different ones on each year before you just start repeating yourself on the calendar. But I really liked him. I thought he was really, really good. And obviously we've said Millie was fantastic in Boom, which is fantastic in Boom as well, but 73 Yards. Something I really liked about her performance was that every time you watch an episode, you spot her doing something new. She's always, you sort of, the bit in Dot and Bubble where they're like, oh, you've met Ricky September, and then she's sort of sorting her hair out and doing all, you know, and she kind of does the same in Rogue, where she's following the 2 aliens, which she doesn't know they're aliens at the minute. She follows them into the library, and she's kind of watching them like, oh my god, it's like, you know, it is like an episode of Bridgerton, sort of. But she's always doing something. Whenever, because there were a few that I watched at midnight and then watched during the day, or some that I watched during the day and then on the live broadcast. So I was like, oh, I didn't notice that the first time I watched it. So I think she was very, very good at sort of doing that. I do feel quite sorry for her, though, that the way her story ended for her character.
She's a good comic actress, actually, Millie.
Yes, yeah. She's very good at doing sort of comedy things. But yeah, the way that it kind of ended for her character, I was like, oh, it's such a... Because it built up to something, and then it didn't really live up to that. So it was... But she was fantastic with what she was given, I think. And I think those two will be a very good TARDIS team. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't really see her on like the most popular companions list. I think she's sort of going to be somewhere in the middle. But I really liked her. I thought she was really good, and I thought she worked well with Ncuti as well. And I think that's because he's classically trained, and she grew up on Coronation Street. And if you pardon the expression, she's the rough to his posh. So they work quite well as a duo.
I see. Okay. I think we're all sort of unanimous then in terms of Millie Gibson for sure. I thought Millie Gibson was really good. I really liked her. I thought she had such a decent amount of things to do most of the time. And it was also interesting to have the whole her very first season in the show. I know she's only got, I don't think she's got a second full season, right? I think she's in it for a little bit next season, and then she's off. But to have, a very big story arc, which, ultimately fizzled out into be something fairly normal, which is the point, I get that. But to have a fairly decent sized arc for a brand new companion, and then for her to have a fair amount to do and a fair amount of input for most episodes, and then on top of that, for her to pretty much have to carry 73 yards as well. So yeah, big time hats off to Millie for that.
Something else I would just quickly say about Ruby as a character was she felt like such a breath of fresh air. There was
true.
You'd add what three seasons, but kind of 5 years of Yaz pining after the 13th Doctor, and then obviously David Tennant and Catherine Tate came back, but you didn't have that. There was none of that. Oh, I fancy him, and she kind of did, but it wasn't. There was she knew that there was never going to be anything like that. So, and I really liked sort of when she's in Rogue and things, where she's kind of championing for the Doctor to be dancing with Rogue, and she's sort of she's really happy to see it, and she just felt like such a breath of fresh air after. I mean, I like Yaz, don't get me wrong, but she felt like a breath of fresh air after those years.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Did you think that just going back to just quickly while I think about it, that what you said about Ncuti not being in half of this season, did you feel cheated a little bit?
I did a little bit, because it was it's kind of like having Doctor Who without the Doctor in it. It especially something like Dot and Bubble, where it's like none of the characters here are redeemable at all, and I know that's the whole point, but it sort of, especially in the middle, I think that's why I didn't really like Space Babies, but I think the first sort of 4, including the Christmas special, were pretty good, and then it dipped in the middle, kind of picked up at the end. I think I would rather watch Empire of Death again than something like Dot and Bubble. So I think it did affect the series, and I think that's a problem with only having 8 episodes as opposed to 13. I think it wouldn't have felt quite so bad then that he wasn't in as much of it as Millie Gibson was.
Exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, with an 8 episode, you're so short for time. It's why a lot of this felt so rushed. I think a lot of the episodes, they were so fast paced. Yeah. They didn't have time to breathe, and you feel like, especially with it's almost like unit dating with the Doctor and Millie's timeline throughout this, because you just don't know, and they've tried to put in so much that they've travelled 6 months between the first episode and the second episode, and you're just supposed to accept that. But that's because they haven't got the time to show it. And I personally, I think the absolute sweet spot was 13 episodes and a Christmas special. But I get, it's expensive, but Doctor Who's,
I think
arguably the best show on the planet. So
I think that's the shame of the short series, really, because we're told so much about their adventures. We're told that they're best friends, but we don't really have time to see it, and it builds up, and you really believe in those characters together. I mean, the actors themselves were very good with obviously what they were given, but in terms of did I believe their relationship? Did I believe they were best friends? I think the shortcoming of the 8 episodes is showing, really, because we don't have time to go into their relationship. I mean, it felt like that the series was very much about the themes that Russell T Davies wanted to bring into it, rather than kind of developing their relationship a bit more. I mean, we hardly knew anything about Ruby's family. We don't know very much about Carla or Cherry, really. We just get very, very, very brief kind of vignettes of life going on at home. So I think that was the shame of the series. It would have been nice to have explored their relationship, and if you have 13 episodes, you can do that. Where they, it's built up and you believe it. I mean, you could believe Rose and the Ninth Doctor, at the end of that series. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
Me.
Yeah, true. I mean, we've been spoiled, haven't we, in the past with longer episode seasons before, pretty much every season up to this point. So it did feel slightly weird. And
I think it was something.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think it didn't help that I think some of the episodes were not in the right order, because I think Jordan picked this up earlier. I think some of the episodes got moved around, and I think that kind of confused their relationship as well. Because I'm sure some of those episodes got moved around, because I think the Devil's Cord probably should have come a bit later in the run. I got that sense anyway from kind of listening to the dialogue. So yeah, that probably didn't help either. I get a sense that they moved a lot of the episodes around. So we got Space Babies and Devil's Cord first, whereas I think Devil's Cord was meant to come later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. And it felt like that a little bit as you were watching through each episode. You kind of got that feeling like you thought, this probably would have been suited way better, like, the opposite end of the... So I get that. Yeah, totally. I think a lot of people felt that way as well. That wasn't a unique thing to just a few people. A lot of people I saw online were saying, it feels weird. It feels like this should be in a slightly different order, so... But I guess that's just like the teething problems, I guess. That's the things you have to go through when you've got stuff on a brand new service, brand new studio, everything changing and coming back, and international streaming and all that stuff. I guess it's, you have to go through a little bit of that to sort of find your feet a little bit again. Okay, so that's all good stuff. And just quickly then to finish up from each of you, start with you, Maria. Is there anything that you're particularly looking for in the next season? So when we get season 2 next year, is there anything that you, after watching this one, you think, actually, I really need more of this, or you want to see a particular thing or whatever? Is there anything?
Well, I think the thing is, obviously we would have liked to have seen Ruby and the Doctor's relationship develop. Like, that doesn't look like that's going to happen. I'm a little bit worried about season 2, I suppose, because it's already been filmed. So, we don't, I'm assuming that, well, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that if it follows the same kind of pattern that we've had with this series, where it's been a bit uneven, will it bring the fans back? Because I know we don't look at ratings, but the overnights were quite low for this series. So it really needs to be strong for for season 2. It needs to be a really strong series with a really clear through line, whatever the theme is going to be for the next series, or whatever the monsters are going to be for the next series. It needs to be a really strong start. So I'd like to see a really strong start to the next season. But it's a bit, as I say, it's a bit unknown because it's already been filmed. So there's no option to course correct if there's if it's a season like we've had with this one, which has been very uneven, very up and down.
Mm-hmm. Okie dokie. Yeah, that's a good point as well, isn't it? It's all been done. It's all filmed and is ready. So yeah, okay. Interesting thoughts as always, Maria. Jordan, what are you? Anything that you want to, like when season 2's done, you think, right, okay, I'm glad they did that because it was lacking in season. That kind of thing. Is there anything that you want to see for the next one?
Well, Ncuti Gatwood to be in every episode would be be a good start. More different writers, because I think what didn't help was that Rusty Davies was writing pretty much every story, so a wider variety of writers, I think, and the Doctor just to not be so emotional all the time. I know that's kind of the whole thing that he's going for, but it does take away the impact at the end if something really bad happens. I wouldn't mind seeing more of Unit as well, actually. I've quite enjoyed them this series. Someone's actually finally succeeded in giving Kate Stewart a character. And I like Kate Stewart, but she never really got over, I'm the Brigadier's daughter, and then Rusty Davies came along and was like, nope, you're a character. Not sure I like the whole thing where she's holding hands with Colonel Ibrahim at the end. I think that's a HR nightmare. But that's fine. And if Bonnie Langford was to come back, I'd be like, yep, that'd be great, because I think she was probably the best thing in Empire of Death. So yeah, just really for Ncuti Gatwood to be in more of it, and the stories to make a bit more sense, sort of when you watch them all together.
Gotcha. Okay. So a bit more of a coherent story as you watch through the season. Yeah. Cool.
Oh, Garry, can I stick up for Bonnie Langford, please? Because I thought this series, Bonnie Langford was fantastic as Mel, and I didn't like some of the dialogue that she got that was said about her, in that she was bonkers and she was this and she was that. She was actually one of the best things about the series, because she got that Doctor to buck up and kind of sort the problems out rather than sitting there crying. So well done, Mel. I
kind of wish she'd gone off with him at the end.
Yeah, actually, that would have been fantastic. She was actually, I think Bonnie Langford has kind of, she's grown as an actress, and I think she's brought something to Mel this series, which has, been fantastic. She's brought maturity. She takes it seriously. She wasn't messing around when she was on screen. I mean, I loved her, getting her moped out, or a bike, or whatever it was, getting on that bike and kind of steering them out of trouble. She was one of the best things about the series, and I think she is back in the next season. So looking forward to that.
I think she is back. Yeah. Okay, sticking up for Mel. I've got to stick up for Mel, of course. Any classic companion, got to stick up for him. And Matt, same question to you. What are you looking for in the next season, dude?
Well, I was going to say more Mel as well. I'll just cover that very quickly. Russell T Davies has a very good way of writing things from the classic series to entice modern viewers to then go back and see the classic series. He did it with K9 in School Reunion and Sarah Jane, and obviously that spawned the Sarah Jane Adventures, which was, amazing. But he's done it with Mel. He's brought this character in. The classic fans obviously have rejoiced and they love, but modern only fans, they gone, who's Bonnie Langford? Like, who's this kick-ass character that's just come in and just like stolen the show? I want to know more. And she's a past companion. Cool. It's all on iPlayer. Brilliant. And he's very good at doing that. He's done it with Sarah Jane and K9, like I said, and it worked really well. And he's done it again. So I think, Mel was fantastic, and he's done it again to me. I was a perfect age when Sarah Jane and K9 was reintroduced, and that worked completely on me. He's done it with Mel because through no fault of no malicious intent, I've not watched hardly any with Mel in the classic series. But I can't wait to then go back and now watch them for the first time, because she's so good in Series 15 or Season 1. So that more Mel, definitely. More time in the TARDIS. That TARDIS is blooming gorgeous. But we haven't seen that much of it.
True.
We've seen it change colour, and it's sick when it does that. But there's not much time in the TARDIS. I'd like a few more character pieces in the TARDIS where it can really have its moment to shine. Some weird little quirks that it can do, and we can just spend a little more time in the TARDIS. I think it's a little more would hit the sweet spot. It's just not quite cutting it this series, I think. I really want to find out Mrs. Flood, Anita Dobson. She was fantastic in this series as well. Anita Dobson. I'd never seen any of her other work before being cast as Mrs. Flood, but yeah, she's a fantastic actress. And plays Mrs. Flood really, really well. So intrigued.
You're too young for young Anita. EastEnders. You're too young for that, I think.
Yes, probably. I'm in my head, I'm not young, but yes, I'm probably the youngest one here, aren't I? Maybe Harry. Maybe Harry might be younger. I'm not
think
sure.
Harry is, little bugger.
But I'm really intrigued with her character.
It's an interesting point you bring up about the TARDIS as well, because in previous, so from Eccleston's series onwards up until, I'd probably say right the way through Tennant and Matt Smith's era, and it kind of slipped away a little bit as we got into Jodie's era, but it's weird because all those previous series, Russell has always written the TARDIS to almost have its own personality, and it's a character in its own right, and you often had the Doctor sort of pleading with it to do certain things and chatting away to the TARDIS and all that stuff. We don't seem to have that as much these days. We have the Doctor very much, and even more so for this one with Ncuti, because we know for various reasons this felt like a little bit of a soft reboot in a way for modern audiences, and so because of that we've had the Doctor overly explain what the TARDIS is and that sort of thing, but we haven't had the Doctor really try and have an emotional attachment to the TARDIS just yet, I don't think, and I kind of miss that. I love it. I used to love it when when Eccleston's Doctor did that, or especially Tennant used to do it. And actually Matt Smith did, I think, the best, I would say. I think Matt Smith did it. So
Definitely.
Anyway, it's a good
do you think
good thing.
Do you think, Gary, because the TARDIS is so large now on the interior, that with all the walkways and everything, that actually makes it quite difficult for the Doctor to be kind of, I don't know what the word is, kind of affectionate towards the TARDIS, because it feels like such a huge, it feels cathedral-like now, and I think they need to do something with it. I mean, if they're going to build a fantastic set like that, they need to actually be doing something with it. Either have people running up and down it, or kind of, making it feel like a like an organic part of the. I don't know how to explain it. You know, if you ever watch Farscape, you know, you had Moya, who was the spaceship, and she was very intuitive. And I think they need a bit more of that back in the TARDIS now, because the Doctor always in Classic Who used to talk to the TARDIS. He'd always call her old girl and bang the console and. You know, he'd always be affectionate towards the TARDIS, but you don't see that now. They've got a fantastic set, but they're not using it.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Yeah, it's a big old set. It's like Matt mentioned. It's a gorgeous interior. It looks cool. My only two thoughts on it would be, I think you're right, Maria, in your opinion of it being too big. It can feel a little bit like it's just like a big empty sphere at times. And they've tried to give it a little bit of personality. I think they've got the jukebox and, you know, and that's all cool. But then the other thing is, because it's so monotone, it's almost all white, almost, with like little shades of greys and teals and stuff. That gives it a very clinical feel to it. So it feels like you can't touch anything. You know, you don't want to put a fingerprint anywhere. You don't want to... You know, it feels like you should be taking your shoes off when you go through the TARDIS door. Do you know what I mean? It's got that kind of feel to it. Whereas the previous TARDIS interiors have all been either steampunky or grungy or whatever. So it's like they've gone one extreme to the other. We had the opposite criticism with Jodie's TARDIS interior, where it was like, it felt like a broom cupboard with just like a few bits in it, and it was very dark and... You know, you couldn't really see what's going on. So it's felt like they've gone from that all the way to like the other end of the spectrum, where it's this huge big thing. It's very light and stuff. So it would be cool to have some kind of middle ground. I know you shouldn't always sort of compare with what's gone before, because that's the past. But, you know, the size and the feel of Matt Smith's Doctor or Tennant's Doctor, that was the sweet spot for me. That was the
definitely.
That was the coolness of it all. And there was a really cool... do you guys remember what was her name? The Joe Martin's... what's her official name? Sorry?
The Fugitive Doctor.
Fugitive Doctor, that's it, yeah. Do you remember her TARDIS interior?
That was nice.
Amazing.
Yeah. That was like this one, but sort of scaled down a little bit and not as white and overly light and stuff and airy. That was a bit more...
It was a bit grungy almost.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So, as you guys know, Russell does listen to the podcast, everything we have to say. So hopefully he's had his notepad out and he's jotted down a few things, and we'll see a change in season 3, perhaps, because as Maria said, it's all done already.
Whilst we just... One more thing about the TARDIS before we change. Do you think that all of this time with Sutekh controlling the TARDIS and you know this talking to the TARDIS and the affection that the Doctor has with the TARDIS, do you think it's slightly misplaced now that you just find he's just had this affection for Sutekh? That, and what's the TARDIS going to be like now that it's finally free? Is it finally going to get to the right place? Is it... you know,
Matt, you've waited until the end of the show to bring that huge question up.
I was hoping we weren't going to talk about Sutekh, because maybe you could save that for the next round table, because I have a lot to say about Sutekh. And
there we go. Round table for August is the Sutekh special.
The Sutekh special,
That's why the TARDIS hasn't been in this series much, is because it's been too busy off backstabbing the Doctor, really, isn't it? You'd think old Idris, when she's talking to the Doctor, be like, oh, by the way, there's a big dog sat on the roof. Yeah. If you could just, shoo him off. Or when Peter Capaldi sat on the roof, he thinks, oh, well, like someone's leg I sat on here.
Or Jodie and Yaz sat on the top of the TARDIS,
and, and he's third wheeling.
Sutekh's just sneaking a quick lick of an ice cream.
Oh, don't. I mean,
Jodie's
that's one
thinking,
of the
where's
things.
my ice cream going?
Yeah.
That's one of the things I don't
guys.
want for the next season. I don't want Russell T Davies to go back to any classic Who and reinterpret a classic character again, please. I mean, he went back, apparently, this was an idea that he had when he was 15 years old, that Sutek wasn't destroyed in the vortex and that it clung to the TARDIS. I think he just needs to kind of, put those teenage ideas in the past. Don't bring them out for the next season, because if he ruins another classic monster, I will not be happy. So that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
But maybe that's why Sutek was so grumpy, was because of the amount of times he'd been blown up, shot, missiles fired at him. Yeah.
Imagine if you were sellotaped to the outside of a NASA rocket and you just had to stay on it for years, and just have to do.
Can I just?
You'd be miffed as well.
Can I just say I reserve the right to redact anything that RTD says, and erase it completely from my memory, and that's where I'm going with this one, because the thing that I really don't get some of the stuff that he's come out with recently, but we'll talk about that another time.
Sure, for sure.
I did see one theory that I'm kind of putting as my headcanon is that Russell says since Period of Mars. I think that's rubbish. But I would say that this one thread that I saw of somebody's thoughts was that since the Salt at the end of the universe, since the 14th Doctor, what was he? Did he made a
like circle or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he tempted fate at the end of the universe. Yeah. Since then Sutek's been on the TARDIS, and I like that a lot better.
Yeah.
That would have made sense, not the fact that he's been there.
Well, that would make more sense.
Forever.
That would actually make more sense. And yeah, I think this idea that he's been sitting on the TARDIS since Pyramids of Mars, when the Doctor has visited hundreds of planets, and apparently he's been creating a version of Sis and Twist in every single one. It makes me laugh a little bit, because it feels as if Russell T Davies wants to add his own little touch of legacy to Classic Who. And the thing is, Classic Who is Classic Who. Don't touch it, don't mess with it. We've already done that with the Timeless Children, and and I think enough is enough. I think Classic Who fans like myself will be up in arms if he does it again next season. So,
Jesus,
we will.
We will riot.
I will go down to Cardiff and I'll boycott the BBC Studios. But yeah.
Okay. We hear you, Maria. Like, you're basically saying, don't mess with Classic Who, Russell.
I think so. I mean, in all seriousness, I think I've always thought that showrunners, producers, whoever they are are caretakers of Doctor Who, because if it's lasted this long, 61 years, you want it to continue going forward. But if they keep messing with canon, if they keep adding all these bits to it and making it really convoluted, it's just going to ruin the enjoyment for people that are watching it. That's my opinion. I mean, I've been a classic fan since I was 13 years old, and I really don't want modern showrunners kind of trying to add their stamp onto Classic Who. There's more than enough scope within Doctor Who for them to create new monsters, new ideas, new adventures. Why go back and use Classic Who? Go and find some fresh ideas. Don't ruin. we can talk about the finale, but it was a mess. In all honesty, it was a mess. We haven't really talked about it, but this series has been really disappointing in the finale, and that that's why I'm not in any rush to kind of pick favorite stories from this series, because I really feel that it didn't land this series. It didn't land what it was trying to do, in the themes that it was, in the stories it was trying to tell. It really didn't land. I'm hoping next season will be better. But, given that it's already been filmed, are we going to get more of the same? That worries me a little bit. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, hopefully no more classic monsters piggybacking off the back of anyone's TARDIS or anything like that.
Imagine the headache he must have had in Boomtown when the rift energy comes down. He needed a couple of paracetamol after that one.
He'd have a hell of a migraine, wouldn't he?
It's no wonder he's in a mood. His poor nerves are probably hanging out.
Just imagine
I think it's probably just... Yeah.
I was gonna say, just imagine Captain Jack hanging to the outside of the TARDIS. What was he hanging on to?
Him away, like, no, go, shoot.
I think it'll probably end up going down in history as the same sort of thing as the Eighth Doctor, the movie being the Doctor being half human. I think it'll just be something that is instantly laughed at, and it's no way it's canon. It was someone trying to do something that didn't work, and we'll just all pretend it's not a thing.
Probably. It'd be like a Timeless Child conversation thing where it's like, do you buy into this? And someone's like, yeah.
And then you've got the numpty like me that says, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? And I think on that cheery note about Sutekh, we will wrap up the July roundtable there, folks. Thank you for listening to another roundtable here at the Big Blue Box podcast. I was joined by Jordan, Matt and Maria as we gave you our thoughts on season 1 and Ncuti and Millie and our thoughts on some of that stuff, and a little bit of an inkling into what we're hoping to see on the next season next year. So thank you guys, it's been awesome to get your thoughts on Doctor Who as always. Jordan, always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. And although we say it in jest, but we do love Doctor Who, so our criticisms are in jest.
Indeed, good point. Matt, always a pleasure as well, dude.
Always, Gary. As always, these podcasts are one of the favourite things that happens in my month. It's brilliant, and yes, it's nice to be back. And like Jordan says, yes, it's only because we love the show that much that we can jest about it. We still love it.
Very true. Very true. And Maria, your thoughts have been amazing as always. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Gary. I love doing these podcasts.
Thank you. Just another friendly reminder to go and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from, so you won't miss any of the monthly roundtable episodes and the weekly episodes for Adam and I. And you can listen on the website as well, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk, and you can link off to the socials and a Discord to get involved in all that stuff over there. Right, guys, until next time, let's do this.
Sutekh's fading off into the distance.